Welcome to Athletes to Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct, and we've created a platform to help people to network and connect amongst their affinity groups. So whether it's athletes, it could be fraternities or sororities or just college alumni, giving them a place to truly work together and help each other out. But one of the things with this show is there's a major issue today with athletes transitioning out of sports. And what the idea here is that we talk to former athletes, collegiate, professional athletes, and talk about their journey. And it's all about teaching, inspiring athletes that there is truly life after sports. So real excited today to have Garett Henson on with us. How you doing, Garett?
Doing great, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So Garett, he grew up. He's a big time hockey player. Played a little bit in college, and then went through it and ultimately came out. He got into some corporate marketing, and then he kind of landed his dream job playing. Not playing. I'm sorry, playing would have been great.
It would, man. It would. That was always a dream of mine.
Yeah, that was his dream. He wanted to play, but okay, so he wasn't playing. He was in the front office, but that was great for the New Jersey Devils, and now he's doing some great things in the marketing world. So, Garett, I always talk about the first question I ask is talk about playing sports growing up and how it shaped you up through high school into college.
Absolutely. I think, Rob, really sportsmanship is what gave me my start. You treat everyone like you want to be treated. That's following the golden rule. But more importantly, sportsmanship really gave me the positive mindset I have. It gave me that go-getter energy. I started doing marketing at a very young age, at the age of 13. I'm now 26, living in New Jersey, which is awesome, my home state. Growing up in Ridgewood, New Jersey, playing at the Ice Bowl Arena in Wayne as a young kid, and then transitioning to high school, and then a little bit collegiate, which was also a dream of mine. And then also working in the front office of the New Jersey Devils. And I think, having your dream job, definitely inspires people my age and from my generation to really go after it. Playing at the Ice Bowl Arena, we attended many camps like Ken Danico's camp, Zach Parisi's camp, Martin Brodor's camp. It was so cool seeing all these guys in action and getting mentored and trained by them. The full summer getting trained by Jan Ludwig, who's also a Stanley Cup winner for the New Jersey Devils, and getting mentored by these guys and actually working with some of them at the Prudential Center. It was like a dream come true. And to say that I can call these guys old colleagues and now friends, they will always be mentors to me, but calling them friends and colleagues is it feels good coming out of your mouth. So
That's great. And we'll talk about that a little bit later because it's you hit a key point that we'll discuss is talking about mentors and the key to those. So I always ask, did you dream about playing, being a professional athlete? And if so, what sport when you were growing up?
I think every kid did who played sports growing up. And that was everyone's goal, especially, mine, some of my old teammates. And it's kind of cool. A lot of my old teammates are now either playing in minor league hockey, professional lacrosse, which is pretty cool. Still keeping in contact with them. I would say definitely playing hockey would have been a dream of mine. Or it was so weird, and this is a sport you really wouldn't hear in our generation, but I thought I was going to be a pro skateboarder at one point. I used to love skateboarding, and it's like, it would be hockey on the weekends throughout the week. But then, skateboarding with a couple of my friends was also a nice passion of mine and a hobby I had. In the summer, it's like, hockey camp from like, let's say 6 a.m. We're up at 5 on the ice at 6. And then, let's say 3-4 o'clock hits, you have like an hour or two to skateboard with your friends. That's what a couple of my summers looked like. And I thought I was going to either be a pro hockey player or a professional skateboarder, skateboarding in the X Games or the pro leagues, which is always a dream of mine. So I definitely would have to say hockey and skateboarding.
Now, was that Tony Hawk, right?
You know what? I would always respect Tony Hawk, but my generation, we really like Ryan Sheckler, Paul Rodriguez, and all these guys, and like Nyjah Houston. And I remember like meeting the three of them at one of my favorite skate shops, CCS, back in the day, and I'm like, dude, I'm actually shaking your hand. I'm actually getting a picture with you. You guys are like the chillest guys in the world. There's this one Canadian skater named Mark Appleyard. And I kind of shared like a cool connection with him. I'm like, yo, you're from Canada. I played hockey my whole life. Did you ever play growing up? He's like, yeah, I tried it, but skateboarding was really his passion. And then just like, after the signing, just really connecting with him about hockey. and skateboarding, you know, hockey has like that, like one fraternal connection. Like if you see a hockey bro in the street and like they're wearing something, let's say from Silver Sticks, like back from 2007, 2008, when I played in Silver Sticks, or like, you know, a CCM shirt, and or like I was an NJ Bandit growing up. So whenever I see like a kid wearing an NJ Bandit jacket, I'll be like, what level are you? I'm a Bandit alum. So having that connection where, you know, you can just talk to someone and have a great conversation on something you both love and share, it's pretty nice. And a lot of people.
That's great. I mean, you definitely tell you're passionate about that, the sports. Talk about a little bit. One thing we talked a little bit offline, but social media. Now, you know, obviously, when I was growing up and way back then, there was no social media, and I've talked to some other athletes on the show about, you know, the difference in timing, because you hear different stories, kind of the positive and negatives, and just I guess, what was your upbringing with social media as far as you know, making sure to kind of say the right things? Talk a little bit about that, both the pros and the cons.
So you know what, Rob? It's actually pretty funny. In where I went to middle school, we had this one tech teacher named Miss Handy. And Miss Handy was like the most, you know, energetic teacher. She was a cool teacher. I liked her. But she had this quote called "Think before you click."
That's good.
And it's kind of like, you know, before you post something or before you, like, you know, comment something on someone's page, think before you type it. And you know, it's so sad with our generation that a lot of people are committing suicide. A lot of people are getting, you know, cyberbullied, just because of this, right?
Right.
This thing is really ruining the world. And it's really sad to see that some people are scared to express themselves on social media because they're scared what people are going to say or think. And with social media itself, from a professional standpoint, because, you know, I do digital media for a living. I see some things on social media that I kind of get disappointed in. Like, you know, for example, I won't say their name. I saw someone post something that, you know, they were angry, and out of anger, they were posting on their story saying, "Hey, this is one of the people that did this to me. This is another person." And I'm like, dude, you need to take that down. It's gonna, you know, ruin your image.
Right.
This person actually wants to be a real estate professional, and, you know, like, own many plazas in his name. I'm like, you're gonna ruin your reputation,
Yeah.
if you post something like this, because you never know who's watching. And that's just one thing that I'm starting to see a lot on social media, and that's something we need to stop, because a lot of people are being inspired by, like, 10, 12-year-old kids are being inspired by their favorite rapper or their favorite athlete. So they go out and, like, image what these athletes and what these entertainers are doing, and it's sometimes not the best advice, or the best image as well.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And obviously, the flip side is, on the positive side is just, I guess, if you do it the right way, and obviously that's what you're doing for a living. But I know with like NIL and things like that, name, image, likeness, people are utilizing it in a positive fashion. So maybe talk a little bit about that, kind of maybe the right ways to use it.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, just from looking at, like, you know, sports marketing as well, Trent Shelton, he's a perfect example. You know, he's a retired NFL alum. But what he did is he took his, you know, athletic standpoint from what he learned on the field and in his pro days, and he's using it as a motivational platform. So he's a motivational speaker. He loves to motivate people every day. And, like, I remember one time, or one niche or one campaign he worked on. I haven't really heard him say it, like, a lot recently, but it is in his beginning and in his prime, he would say it's rehab time. Like, it's time for you to actually, like, dial in and hear the positivity, what people are saying. So there's a lot of positivity on social media.
Sure.
It's just about how you use it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. One of the things, you know, kind of going back into, I guess we'll talking about the transition out of sports, but one thing that we've talked to a lot of athletes about is just getting their college experience. And so talk a little bit about your thoughts on things that are, you know, I mean, some schools are different, but like kind of having curriculum that can kind of help athletes, you know, develop that bigger plan for when they are done with their sport.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's kind of like, you know, that movie Boys in the Hood,
Yeah.
right? And you know how like they have that one scene where the UCLA scouts coming to talk to, you know, the brother who's actually going places in his career and his passion. The UCLA scout says, you know, there's no guarantee that you're going to be playing pro ball after you graduate college, right? And you know, there really is no guarantee. We all sit here and we think we're like, yeah, we're going to be the next this, that. Have that motivation, have that positivity. It's great. But like, you know, even people who are pros, once they retire, there's no guarantee that they're going to be like an MVP or they're going to stay 10-yeared or they're going to stay even 5-yeared, some of them, right? Some players we haven't even heard the names in years and they're just benched. You know, they're a perfect example for someone who, you know, after their pro days, they either get into real estate. I'm seeing a lot of people do real estate now. Or more importantly, they're probably trying to go into, let's say, sports broadcasting. So sometimes, you know, as you know, some pro athletes don't even get to finish a whole 4-year term at college. So they finish maybe 2 years, they go to the pros, and then they go back to school, get their degree, and then start focusing. And it's pretty cool. And you see a lot of documentaries and a lot of articles on that specific topic.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of the athletes, and I mean, you could probably test it to yourself. As you know, you talk about you're kind of, the athletes are focused on their sport, especially the elite athletes, and so they're not necessarily thinking about that, but somehow we want to make an impact. And I had one of my recent guests was talking about setting up. You know, it would have been great if there was a semester or a 4-week program where you were, as an athlete, you had to take the class, and this class might talk about, could be you know, financial literacy, mental health, could be networking and connecting, just different aspects of that transition. Like, would that been a course, do you think, that would have helped like you out, or just, you know, looking at other athletes as they're, you know, in that college space, or even, you know, like I said, back to high school?
Definitely. And you know, I think, you know, athletes, especially Division I athletes, have that mindset, right? Where, oh, you know, there's no plan B, there's only a plan A. Which is great to have. And I use my grandfather as an example. My grandfather has been a great athlete his whole entire life. Played Division I ball at Lafayette. But you know, after college, he did not really feel like getting drafted or going into the pros. And he was pretty good, to say the most part. But I think, you know, that athletic mindset, especially when it comes to like good athletes in, like, you know, high school, college, pros, they always say this is my plan A, and when I retire, and I'll be comfortable. So that's not really the case nowadays. You look
Right.
at Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor is like a vice president of a couple companies. Howard Cross is like a CEO and a co-founder of a few companies. And it's pretty cool to see that as well.
Yeah, and in fact, it's you know, one guy I talked to, he played college football, and then when he was done, he went on to ultimately into the corporate world. And he was the CEO of a couple Fortune 500 companies. And the one thing that his message to athletes was that you have such a unique skill set, and you know, it's the leadership, the coachability, the you know, just the mental toughness, practicing, preparation, everything that goes into being an athlete. And companies want to look for that. So I mean, it's definitely something people should do.
Definitely.
Yeah. So another area that we like to talk about, and obviously with Alumni Direct, you know, we believe in bringing alumni together. And you know, we've got various communities. We've got an athlete community where athletes can network and connect and do different things with other athletes across all sports, but then also specifically into the colleges. So when you were at school at Montclair State, uh, did you see athletes, alumni coming back, and not just for like golf tournaments or things like that, but you see them coming back and maybe working with the players, or, you know, some of your friends who might have played other sports? I mean, did that occur back then?
I haven't really seen it at Montclair State, but definitely have seen it at other universities. You know, a lot of people, especially known athletes, go back to their community. I'm going to use them like Kyrie Irving for an example. Kyrie goes back to his old elementary school just to give back.
Wow.
You know, and I think that's pretty cool. Young Wei Koo actually graduated from Ridgewood High. You know, Young Wei Koo plays for Atlanta. Really cool to know him. definitely, had great conversations with Young Wei. Young Wei goes back to the junior football academy at Ridgewood. And he gives back to because where he started. That's exactly where he started. So I definitely now seeing it back for the youth, in my opinion, more than seeing it collegiate.
Yeah, and I see that as well. You're right. And I think it's something that has to happen more. I mean, we had one. I was talking to an agent, and one of her players was a former NFL guy, and he wanted to go back to his college and work with the athletes. It was almost not that it was shunned upon. I think a lot of these schools are kind of zoned into their program, but I think there's a lot of benefits, for the athletes or just alumni in general to mentor some of the people that are at school now.
Definitely.
So, we talked about that. The hot topic now, and a lot of people refer to it as the Wild Wild West, and it's closer to you because it's happening today. Talk a little bit about NIL, name, image, likeness, and give me your thoughts, both the positives and the negatives of it.
Of the likeness of
Name, image, likeness, that just in general, like what's going on now in different whether it's high school or college, these opportunities the athletes are having.
So I would say a lot of them come from social media brand partnerships. I'm starting to see that a lot high school and collegiate. And that's, one thing I do for some of my athletes that I work with, is getting them great brand deals. And that gets them exposure on digital media, as well as like even on the field and off the field. Like I work with one boxer, and one thing I want to do is like whenever he comes out of the cage to, his match, whoever he's competing against, getting like, some of his brands on his robe when he's walking out. Something we've talked about many times. He's still not, it hasn't really hit his mind yet, because a lot of them say like, it's new generation really don't like robes. I'm like, dude, like 5 or 6 people in the PMBC are using robes. And he's like, yeah, but I don't really want a robe. I'm like, okay, cool. But that's what I'm seeing now a lot is definitely brand and partnerships.
Okay, good deal. So, and I, like with NIL, comes, I guess, one of the things that people talk about is from a team aspect. I mean, do you see, in your opinion, it any detriment to maybe some of these athletes that are having success and maybe affecting the team chemistry?
Not necessarily. Um, I would see a lot of positive coming out of some of team chemistries. There were a few athletes that really ran their mouth a little bit too much. And it kind of did affect the team in a way because they weren't able to play. And they ruined a lot of their deals with, let's say, Nike, Adidas. That's just not only athletes, but that's entertainers as well.
Right. No, for sure. And I always talk about too. I'll say that whether it's the athletes or just young people in general. I mean, there's definitely a need for more education. Especially on the financial literacy side. Because just I heard one sad story where this athlete had gotten an NIL deal, and because of the size of the deal, it wasn't a huge deal, but it was big enough to impact that they lost their scholarship because it kind of took them out of that economic threshold. So it's something that that we think needs to be addressed, and working with different people to help with that. So let's talk about your transition out of sports. So, I mean, you've played sports, all through growing up and all that. So when you were done, talk a little bit about the effects it had on you, and it might have been all positive because you might have been, because it sounds like you talk about marketing at age 13. I'm sure you kind of had your act together, but of course, other athletes that kind of struggle with this. So talk about yours and maybe some advice that you can give to other athletes when that time is done playing sports.
I think, sticking with your plan A is best. Because after you are done with your plan A, how about you just stick in that industry? We see a lot of pro athletes giving back to their community, starting nonprofits like sports nonprofits, even when they are pros, and they bring it into their retirement as well. So definitely sticking in your niche is what I say. I'm speaking like a digital marketer now. Sticking in your niche, right? So perfect example is who would you say, like which athlete would you say is someone who definitely stuck in sports after retirement? Um, a, a lot of them.
Right.
It's really hard to just to name one. Um, but I just use like Michael Jordan as an example, like, the greatest of all time, who has, I don't even know how many businesses this man has now, but like he has like a bunch of steakhouses. Shaq is the owner of is the owner of everything.
Yeah,
He
big time.
wants to invest in everything. And like it's a story about Shaq where you would never see him and he would never see himself in something like tech. And like the reason how he got invested into Google was he was babysitting someone's kids in a lobby at a hotel. And he overheard this conversation about Google. And then he said, "Oh, I want in." And then that's how he owns part of Google now. So I think, just keeping your options open, you never know. I personally did not know at the age of 11 or 12 that I was going to get into marketing. And now I love it and I'm good at it. I'm very talkative. I'm very outgoing. So that's what you need in every industry. So definitely finding something you're passionate about and knowing that you can stick with your plan A. Like I didn't get to play for the Devils, but I did get to work in the same arena as them.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
in the front office. So that's definitely something that I say for even athletes coming out collegiately or pro, stick with your passion, whether that's like, sports, whether that's hockey, baseball, golf, whatever. Just stick with your passion.
That's key right there. I mean, that's something that, everybody out there listening or watching this is passion is key. And I've heard that from other athletes as well. I mean, just in general, that's just a great thing. So once you were done with sports or again, college, and we talked about we're in the pros and you got into the corporate marketing world, I guess, let's kind of zone in. You did a couple different things, but let's zone in on that dream job. Talk a little about, being in a front office with a professional team.
You know what? It's not what I thought it was. It's, competition in anything you do. But it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun where it made me a lot of connections, a lot of fun where it gave me the opportunity to be with pro athletes, go to work with them every day, work with an awesome team, Rob. I still keep in contact with some people at the front office of the Devs today. And we catch up once in a while over the phone or even like on social media because that's how everyone, keeps in contact now. And, when you see someone leave and they go to like another front office or they go to another organization, you just see like, yes, they started at the NJ Devils. And, the cool thing about the NJ Devils is it's not only owned, the company that owns the NJ Devils doesn't only own the NJ Devils, they own the 76ers as well.
Okay.
So Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment, and it's pretty cool because my dad and my girlfriend's dad are both from South Jersey, and they grew up seeing HBSE, the facility, just growing up in South Jersey because that's where the headquarters are. Okay. So it's kind of cool to talk to your parents about like what they saw growing up, and then like their kids working there. So it's always neat to like connect with people in the sports world who definitely know about the Devils history, the 76ers history, getting to meet Doc Rivers was pretty cool. It's really funny because my dad when Daryl Dawkins was living, my dad was good friends with him. So to, work in the same organization as like your dad's friend, it felt surreal.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I remember some good Daryl Dawkins stories too.
Chocolate Thunder, man.
Yeah.
I remember when I first met him, I first met him with my Aunt Jill, and it was so crazy that I met him with my Aunt Jill. We were somewhere, and I think we were at like some basketball tournament, and I see her looking at this guy, giving him a funny look, and she's like, "You know who that is?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "That's Daryl Dawkins." I'm like, "Wow, he's ginormous." And then just talking to my Uncle Jacques and my dad about how they called him Chocolate Thunder because he would break the backboard of the basketball net, and the whole crowd will like the whole arena will shatter, and you would hear like the boom. And then my dad introduced me to him a second time out in Philly, so it's pretty cool to call some of these people friends and actually having to know them when you were younger as well.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, you hear a lot of these stories about, guys today that are, professional athletes and how, I mean, the multi-generations. I mean, I'm a big baseball guy. So just a lot of these baseball players where the dads and sometimes even the grandfathers played. And then, going down to now the kids that are, not kids anymore. They're, Major League Baseball players, but they had, they used to, their dad would take them to the park and they, shag flies and things like that. So that's kind of cool. So let's talk about today. So, now you're into digital marketing and talk a little bit about what you do. And I always say this is kind of the time for that commercial, so to speak, is sharing what you're doing, some of the impacts, and then also ultimately, how people can find you.
Absolutely. So right now, working on a couple few campaigns that are going to be launching spring and summertime with some pretty cool brands. Some are in Boston, some are in Miami, and some are also in like Fort Lauderdale as well. And just bringing it to the tri-state, working with a lot of these people who are global, need to get exposure in the tri-state as well. So working with a lot of these clients and companies, a lot of them are fashion brands. We have a couple supplement brands that we're working with. So you're going to be seeing some really cool stuff in the spring and summertime of 2023.
That's great. I mean, are you, I guess, tying into the whole influencer marketing as well?
Yeah, we have a couple good names that are going to be launching. I can't really say some right now, but next call, Rob, I'll be throwing a lot of names at you.
That'll be great.
Yeah, so it's exciting, man. And it's pretty cool to see, like, me being fans of some of these people who are older than me and who are like successful influencers, entertainers, athletes, and actually getting to work with them now in person is pretty neat. And doing it on my freelance is pretty cool.
That's great. Yeah, it's always good to have your company where you can do some things. So, how do people find you?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, it's Garett Henson. I'm sure we could put, the description for my LinkedIn and Instagram. I have this new thing called Blink where you can like take your phone and everything's like a QR code nowadays, Rob. So I would definitely leave all my information at the bottom, and then they can find me there.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes as well. And you can find us at Alumni Direct. You can find us at alumnidirect.com. You could also find us on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and follow the show. I think this is something, it's like I said from the beginning, we really want to make an impact in helping athletes. It's a big issue, and I think there's a lot that could be done through working with great people like Garett and these other athletes that we've talked about. But we appreciate you on here, Garett, and look forward to working together.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
You're welcome.